Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Boom! And we are back with another one. Jason Hennessey is in the house, y'all.
What's up, Armando? Thank you for having me, man. I'm honored to be here.
Hey, man, I appreciate you being here. I know you're in LA and it's a lot of craziness going on out there. So, you know, my thoughts and my positive vibes are just thinking about you guys out there. I was here in New Orleans during Katrina. So,
wow,
being in that state is just stressful. So I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. It's like a scene from a movie out here. It's surreal. We're fortunate that it hasn't really affected us. We've had a couple scares where it's like, hey, you might need to evacuate, but nothing yet. But boy, it's just so devastating and heartbreaking for all the families that were affected.
Yeah, man. I look at it. I'm just like, it brings me back. And definitely, I know a lot of people out in LA, so thoughts and prayers out there. But I do want to roll in because I really am excited for you to be here. I got the pleasure of meeting you years ago at an 8-figure firm mastermind in Miami.
I remember, yeah.
And I was like, man, I got to get him on the show. Like, we got to talk. There's a lot of things to talk about. So you're well known within the legal community when it comes to SEO and that whole marketing. And I'm just, I want to know what your thoughts are. It's 2025. AI is like all around. You just hear it all over the place. What are your thoughts here in 2025? What is it going to look like? And here in the next 5 years, what is it going to look like?
Yeah. So, we're just in the very first inning of this new world of AI, right? And it's moving so fast. Lord only knows what it's going to look like if it's like 2030 and we're talking about AI, right? But I think you have to look at it as either an opportunity or a threat, right? And I think if you look at AI as a threat, well, then you're going to act as though it's a threat, right? I think, if you embrace it and educate yourself on it and be open to change, boy, is it a game changer. You become a lot more efficient, a lot more effective. But again, you have to be willing to change, right? That's the key here.
Yeah. And so the new things that you're implementing in your business and helping, because you're niche down to attorneys. Do you help anybody else other than attorneys?
For the most part, I'd say like 95% of our clients are attorneys.
Right.
And the other 5% are like people that just kind of know me through other industries that we kind of help out a little bit. But for the most part, we market ourselves to lawyers throughout the country. Yeah.
So what are the new things for legal marketing this year that you're seeing that's coming up and that you're advising your clients to make sure that they are paying attention?
So I'd say, at the end of the day, in terms of my world, like the digital marketing, I think lawyers will try to get traffic, leads, and cases any way that they can get them, right? And so a lot of the stuff that we do, are just leveraging strategies that, have been effective for years, like we're still doing pay-per-click marketing to drive traffic to websites. If you can get the economics to work, by all means, you continue to kind of fund that channel. We're doing local service ads. That's where you're basically paying Google for leads, for phone calls. SEO is kind of my core competency. That's what I'm known at in the industry. So we're definitely kind of leveraging that. But at the end of the day, I think really what Google is looking at is, they're looking at, brands, right? So like as you start to establish yourself as a brand and more people are actually going onto Google and searching for your firm or your name, that adds to the, they call it your EAT signals, your expertise, authority, and trust, which then makes it a lot easier for you to rank higher in the search engines. But also, not only that, but those are also the same signals that a lot of these chat bots like ChatGPT are using, right? So if you go to ChatGPT and type in like, who is the best law firm in, that does personal injury in Atlanta, right? There's a reason why ChatGPT is kind of like publishing 10 firms over other firms, right? And it's a lot of the same variables that like Google uses too, right?
So is it more money or just better product or better branding?
Mostly better branding, which essentially is kind of more money, right? So, I mean, if you're establishing yourself and you're doing radio and you're doing billboards and you're doing TV, right? And more people know about your firm and they're Googling your firm, right? Like a Morgan & Morgan has a competitive advantage, right? Just because they've done so much branding over the years that a lot of people are searching for them, right? But, does that mean that, if you don't have that budget that you should just give up and go home? Absolutely not. There's a lot of other tactics and strategies that you can be deploying to continue to build your brand presence over time, right?
And so what do you see that are like some of the big problems with an attorney that doesn't really have that strong a brand right now?
Mm-hmm.
Where's he or she supposed to be putting their energy? Are they supposed to be putting it in SEO? Are they supposed to be putting into ads? Like what's the first steps here?
Yeah. So, it's, you call it like $1, $2, $3, right? Like Morgan & Morgan is spending $3, right? Where he can buy a billboard in Times Square. You know what I mean? Like he's got enough resources to be able to kind of do that type of branding. Most people don't have $3 yet, right? They're still focused on $1. And so $1 really comes down to, what is going to give you the quickest ROI, right? And so in some cases that might be, hosting lunches with chiropractors, right? Or, walking into neurosurgeon's office and making connect, right? I mean, that's really $1 is like taking people out to lunch and starting to build relationships and compounding those relationships. And maybe, if you're a criminal defense firm, you're working with bail bondsmen. So like, who knows, right? But that, like, I'd say relationship, like networking is probably like $1. I would also argue that $1 is probably doing some experiments, like maybe leveraging some pay-per-click, with the right partner, and seeing if you can make that profitable. If you can spend, I don't know, $10,000 and get 5 cases, and you get, your average case per, at $2,000 per signed case, if that's profitable, well, hey, next month, maybe you spend $15,000, right? And then you just continue to get the economics working. SEO is one of those things that you're not going to see immediate return, but you have to start somewhere. So some of that first dollar, maybe it's 20 cents on the dollar or 30 cents on the dollar, should be going into the future of your firm, and you should be focused on, maybe investing into some of that. But it's really just getting started. And I think early on, a lot of lawyers, you either are trading your time or you're trading money, right? And so a lot of times lawyers early on are kind of spending more time doing things, right? And then eventually get to a place where you can buy back your time, and then you're hiring agencies like mine or or even like yours to do things for you,
100%.
Yeah.
I always am curious, SEO guys, how does it work? Because is there a difference between B2C and B2B in your opinion when it comes to SEO?
I mean, maybe not really. I'd say, the core principles kind of apply. It's just you're just trying to attract a different audience, right? Like, for example, my agency, like we're B2B, right? Like I'm trying to find law firms that are looking for an agency like mine to help them, right? Whereas my clients, right, a law firm is looking, they're B2C, right? They're trying to find, clients, right? The strategy is exactly the same. You know what I mean? I'm just going after different keywords, right? But everything that I do to rank on Google for the word law firm SEO, that's my hero keyword. That's like me ranking #1 for Fort Lauderdale car accident lawyer, right? The strategies that we deploy to get those results are the same exact strategies that we would deploy for our client. It's just, we're just leveraging different assets.
But an attorney wants that local feel, right? For you, you want attorneys. And so, and especially if you already work with a personal injury attorney in one city, I'm assuming that you're not going to work with another personal injury attorney, correct?
Yeah. For the most part, it just kind of depends. Depends on the particular client. It depends on the area. So there's a lot of different variables about why we may or may not have some type of like exclusivity like that.
So when it comes to SEO on a national level, how does that work? Like, or are you setting up different spots in different cities?
You could. It becomes it's like a game of whack-a-mole. You know what I mean? Like there's never an end to it. Just as you kind of hit that one, there's 3 more that are popping up, right? But to your point, I probably don't need to kind of go out and like, I'm not really playing the Google local game. Like, a lot of times when you do searches for stuff that I'm competing for, there's not even a map pack that's showing up. Right. So a lot of times, like, it just comes down to really boosting our domain authority and building strong links to us. Now, that would be different though for a law firm, right? If you're a law firm and you're in Fort Lauderdale, there's probably a good chance that your people doing a search from Miami are not going to see your Fort Lauderdale listing, right? And so there's different strategies that you would need to deploy, one of which is, writing content specifically about every practice area in every single city, maybe opening up different offices in those different cities and getting reviews in those different cities and doing social media. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to kind of target people in different areas. But when you're competing nationally, like I am, it really is coming down to, building a name for yourself, right? Which, I spend a lot of time on my own personal brand, which helps. But then just kind of, leveraging the same strategies that I would leverage for my clients, just for my own agency.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I started this podcast in particular because I wanted to know how other people are creating sort of referral partnerships, JV partnerships, and how they're using that to like grow their companies. So in your experience, how has it been for you when it comes to, creating partnerships, and how has that helped you leverage, growing your business?
Yeah. So I'd say like most of our business comes in by way of referrals, right? And so whether it be, another company that services the legal industry, which, I jump on like intro calls all the time. Like today I had a call with a company that has a new software, right, for legal, right? And so I jump on a call with them. We get to know each other. We figure out a little bit more about how we can help each other. I do a lot of that, and then we also attend a lot of the conferences. We start to speak the vernacular of that particular industry, right? And then the relationships start to compound, right? Every conference you go to, the relations start to compound even more. And the next thing you know, like you've built up such a brand for yourself that in some cases, you don't even need to be at the conference, but there's still people talking about you and your brand, right? Like we do these studies all the time. In fact, we just did one recently where like we might like do something where we measure the time frame in which a law firm gets back to a lead, right? So we reach out to like 1,500 law firms, and we measure the time in which we fill out a form on their website and the time in which they call us back, right? And then we put together this big study and we break it down by market. And boy, does that get people talking about our agency, right? Because we're one of the only agencies that kind of do this study. And so there'll be speakers at conferences that have like us on their presentation talking about this, right? And so that's really what you want to do, is you want to build up so much brand authority that people are talking about you and your company when you're not even in a room like that.
That's awesome. I I've got some friends that are in this sort of space where they're marketers, but what they're saying is they're coming in. Obviously, you can't do it for legal because you can't own a law agency, but basically, or law firm. But
Mhm.
basically, he's coming in and he's going, "Hey, I'm going to build your marketing end for a piece of your business." Right
Okay.
now
Mhm.
that Arizona and I think a couple of other states are starting to open up where you can own law firms,
Yep.
right? And not be an attorney. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on sort of going into like a firm to help with their marketing in order to get, points on the back end or some ownership of that firm?
Yeah, no, I actually am invested in projects like that. So I've got a couple different partners, and so even though I am not a lawyer, because of the alternative business, they call it ABS, alternative business structure. I could legally own now a law firm as long as the law firm is based in Arizona. And so I own a portion of a site called birthinjurylawyer.com. And that's a site where I basically have done all of the SEO and built the asset. And so now I get a piece of that. We also have a bicycle accident website. We have a motorcycle accident website. And so we had our first case that got settled for like $5 million. And so we don't actually try the cases, right? We refer them to like experts that are going to basically do a good job for the actual person that was involved in the accident. But that case was settled for like $5 million, which means that about $450,000 got paid to us. And then, and I just basically split that with my partner, right? So, I got a nice check as a result of like one case, right? So, and there's a lot more inventory like that.
Well, and that's the deal, right? It's like if you can be the rainmaker and you know that the strategy works, then all you have to do is just plug it into all these other businesses.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's the key is we've been helping law firms for so long that we've got a strategy that works. It just requires budget and time, and then from there you get the results. And so why not, build it so that we can also participate too.
How are you structuring, and obviously we can't get into the details about it, but how are you structuring that deal? Like, are you saying, hey, we're gonna get you the cases? Are you guys doing intake and like closing those deals, closing those
So
cases?
So every scenario is different, but in most cases, like we're the ones that are responsible for like the marketing portion of it. Our partners have the relationships with the referral attorneys already. Our partner also has either their own call center or relationships with the call centers. So our job is just really to kind of drive the traffic to the website. And so we are working on a budget per se. So like we're actually, getting some marketing budget from our partner, but it's a lot less than if they were to hire us
Mhm.
in this case. And then we just basically share in the fees, right? But yeah, but for the most part, like the partner of ours is really responsible for the call center as well as like who they're referring these cases out to.
So back to the question of, building these referral partnerships at these conferences. How are you
Mhm.
staying in touch with these people? How are you staying top of mind?
Mm.
And how are you developing those relationships?
Um, you know, as far as developing the relationships, just when you're in an industry for so long, I think there's more opportunity that we say no to, right? Just because everybody would love to partner with us on kind of like a venture like that, right? It has to make sense for us. And so in the world of birth injuries, the person that we partnered with had the domain birthinjurylawyer.com. So that's attractive to us because in the world of SEO, that's called an exact match domain. So that was something that we took into consideration. We also took into consideration expectations, managing expectations of the partner, letting them know that like, we're going to be making a pretty significant investment in this, and this is going to be a 2-year project before we even start to generate any leads. You know what I mean? So really kind of managing the expectations, and then from there, then just kind of delivering the results and making sure that we have the necessary budget for that. Now, is there more opportunities like that? Of course, right? I get pitched probably weekly about like partnerships and JVs and things like that. And sometimes you have to be willing to kind of say no, because everything seems like it's like the next greatest idea, right? And so if you started saying yes to everything, then that becomes a distraction to my core business, and then my business suffers as a result of that. And so we treat all of these strategic partnerships that I have as though it's like a client of Hennessey Digital, right? And so, basically get an account manager, and I'm basically the client for a couple of these ventures. So that's how we treat it.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Are you doing this with other marketing agencies too, or just law firms?
There's one right now that we're actually doing like a joint venture with another marketing agency that is really good. They're another good SEO agency, and they're building out a site right now, and we're basically a partner of theirs on this. So, yeah.
And is there like a formalized agreement, or is it like a handshake deal, or?
No, everything is kind of formal. So we have our attorneys that kind of strike the paperwork. Now we kind of have it to more of like a template that we follow. And it's not like I'm going to build 100 of these things. You know what I mean? Right now it's like, call it like under a handful, I'd say, that we're kind of focused on, because they require capital, right? It's not, and it's not like we have unlimited capital. So, we're just pretty selective in what we choose to work on. And these cases have to be valuable for us to kind of, to like birth injury cases are 7-8 figure cases every time, right? And so it's important for us to choose our battles wisely, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense. Tell me of a time where a partnership just didn't work out, and why didn't it?
Yeah. The only partnership that I can think about would be where it was having a partner of an agency, right? So in my first agency, it was me, and originally I think it was like 3 other partners. We ended up buying out one of the partners, and then it was me and another partner. And I don't think it's fair to say that it didn't work out. I think we both had different appetites for growth and scale. And there comes a point in a business where if one person has their foot on the brake and the other person has their foot on the gas, you don't really move, right? And so that person ended up buying out my interest in that agency. I took a sabbatical for 8 months, and then I basically rebuilt my second agency, which is Hennessey Digital, and I had full control, right? And so I have all the power to determine how quickly we grow, where do I defer profits for the future. And so, this agency has now grown into like a $20 million agency, whereas that first agency where there's 2 different like CEOs, I guess, if you will, one on the foot, one on the brake, the furthest that we got was, growing into like $3.5–4 million, right? In almost the same time period too. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, give me a story of some of an agency or a firm that you worked with where you guys came in, started from like 0, and then, over a certain amount of time, you guys were able to scale it up. And you don't have to mention names, but you can.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's many. There's a firm in Atlanta that was my very first client with Hennessey Digital. I signed them up in like May of 2015. So we're going on 10 years working with them, right? And so when I first started working with them, they didn't really have a digital strategy per se. In fact, their website was just a very basic website. This was a firm that was basically getting most of their cases as a result of their billboards and their TV and all the traditional ways that, law firms have generated cases. And so I manage expectations, and we put together a strategy. And, within the first year, we were able to kind of get their average case using SEO, down below, let's just call it $4,000, $3,000. Then, as you continue to grow and you publish more content and you do more link building, you kind of try to get it below 2,500. Then you try to get it below 2,000. And, now they're at a point 10 years later where their average cost per signed case from SEO is probably now under $300, right? Because they've been investing in SEO for 10 years, right? And so that's what SEO is you're really planting seeds for the future. And so that's, there's another South Florida firm that we work with too. Same thing. We've been working with them for like 7-8 years, just planting seeds. The content that we publish today will not only generate leads, in 4 months from now, but it'll also generate leads 4 years from now. Right. So that's just kind of the game of SEO.
Makes sense. I love that. And so what are all of the things that you guys offer? I know it's digital solutions, but what are the different areas that you guys handle?
So for the most part, we build websites, we design websites. SEO is probably what our core competency is. So driving traffic to websites. We manage pay-per-click, and I think the beauty about working with somebody like us that specializes in working with law firms, and we work with some of the biggest law firms in the country, is, when you work with us, you're leveraging the years and years of mistakes, right? That cost these other firms lots and lots of money to learn, what are the negative keywords that we should be putting in here? What are the strategies that don't work, right? And so typically when somebody works with us, they get that advantage right from the start. They don't have to learn the same mistakes and the same lessons over and over again. I got 20 years of learning those mistakes, right? And we put systems and processes in place so that, people can just get the benefit from day one and have a competitive advantage. We do some PR, a little bit of PR. The only thing that we really don't do is organic social media. That's really something that, people should be doing that in-house. If somebody comes in and they got a big check, go take a photo with them. If it's somebody's birthday at the firm and you want to add to the culture, post, so like, that's the only thing that we really don't do, I'd say.
Very cool. And how do they reach you?
So, you can find me. I'm pretty active on Instagram, just at Jason Hennessey. I'm on LinkedIn. And then my agency is Hennessey.com, HENNESSEY.com.
Fantastic. Jason, I appreciate you being on the show. You're a rock star. And if you guys are looking for the best, hit up Jason, man. He's real deal. Just look him up. Just Google him. You'll see.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.